Rumors are spiraling completely out of control across the internet right now about the British monarchy. But the absolute truth hidden behind the palace gates is far more fascinating than any wild theory you have scrolled past today. Imagine waking up to find out the most guarded institution in modern history just shattered centuries of strict silence, leaving millions across the globe wondering what is actually happening behind closed doors with King Charles III. We are diving deep into the unprecedented December 2025 royal update that has the entire world talking. But to truly understand the massive shift in how the royal family operates, we have to look closely at the exact details the palace is releasing, the incredibly wild internet speculation they are desperately trying to shut down, and the very specific medical phrases that are keeping everyone on the absolute edge of their seats. According to reports, the internet is flooded with shocking claims of imminent abdication and secret crises, but sources claim the reality of the king's health is a completely different story entirely. So, what is the actual truth about his condition going into 2026, and why is Buckingham Palace suddenly acting so completely out of character by being remarkably transparent? To figure out this massive royal puzzle, we need to rewind to the exact moment everything changed in February 2024, when the palace dropped an official announcement that sent massive shockwaves across the globe. It was officially confirmed that the king had been diagnosed with a form of cancer, a serious condition discovered entirely by accident during a routine procedure for a completely unrelated, benign issue. Now, you might think a modern institution would just lay all the cards on the table, but the palace immediately engaged in a brilliant masterclass of selective disclosure. They told us he was stepping back from public-facing duties to begin a rigorous schedule of regular treatment, yet they completely locked down any specific details about the type or exact location of the illness, adhering rigidly to the age-old royal tradition of strict medical privacy. This instantly created a massive curiosity gap for the public, leaving everyone relentlessly questioning what was actually going on. Why share the initial diagnosis, but deliberately hide the finer details from the very people who fund the monarchy? Was it to prevent widespread public panic, or simply to maintain a vital shred of personal dignity in a highly public, relentlessly scrutinized role? It is alleged that this delicate balancing act was carefully designed to stop the media rumor mill before it even started, reassuring the public that the monarch was still actively handling important state business from his desk, even if he was not out shaking hands at public events. But did it actually stop the rumors? Of course not, because the internet absolutely loves a mystery, and whenever you leave a blank space, people will inevitably rush to fill it with the most dramatic theories imaginable. Fast forward to March 2025, and the plot thickens considerably, leaving seasoned royal watchers completely stunned. The king experienced what palace officials cautiously described as temporary side effects from his ongoing medical regimen. This unexpected development led to a brief, highly publicized hospital observation that immediately sent the global media into an absolute frenzy. News headlines were flashing continuously, social media platforms were spiraling out of control, and people around the world were bracing themselves for the worst possible news. But just as the panic reached its absolute peak, the palace swooped in to officially confirm that he was already safely back at Clarence House, heavily emphasizing that the hospital stay was strictly precautionary and absolutely not an indicator of some sudden, catastrophic health collapse. It is honestly somewhat amusing how the massive palace PR machine has to constantly play an exhausting game of whack-a-mole with public anxiety, desperately waving their hands and saying there is nothing to see here, while the entire world intensely watches their every single move with a giant magnifying glass. The king actually resumed his public duties shortly after this scare, albeit on a much more reduced and carefully tailored schedule dictated entirely by his trusted medical team. Buckingham Palace maintained a remarkably steady and calm narrative through all of this intense scrutiny, constantly insisting that his condition was being closely monitored, and that adjusting his daily schedule was just standard medical advice, not a terrifying sign of a monarchy in deep peril. But just when we all thought we understood the brand new normal for the royal family, December 2025 rolled around and delivered a massive moment that absolutely nobody saw coming. Are you ready for this massive twist? Because King Charles stepped directly in front of the camera for a rare, highly personal video message tied to the Stand Up to Cancer campaign, and what he said in that broadcast completely changed the global conversation yet again. In this truly unprecedented video, he gave the most detailed and context-rich public commentary on his personal health journey to date, breaking the traditional royal mold in a way that left veteran commentators completely stunned. He stated clearly that thanks to early diagnosis and highly effective medical intervention, his treatment schedule would officially be reduced in 2026. This was the massive mini payoff the anxious public had been waiting for, a collective sigh of relief wrapped in official royal stationery. He revealed that his treatment was officially moving into what his doctors called a precautionary phase, which is an incredibly specific and carefully chosen medical phrase. Now, you absolutely need to pay very close attention to the wording here, because what he intentionally did not say is just as crucially important as what he actually did say. He never once used the words remission or cured. Why does that exact phrasing matter so much to the public and the institution? Because it perfectly illustrates the incredibly tight and dangerous rope the British monarchy is walking right now. They desperately want to project hope and positive momentum, actively acknowledging that he has responded exceptionally well to the managed medical regimen. But they also have to carefully manage public expectations and deeply respect the serious, ongoing nature of the illness. He framed this incredibly positive update not just as a personal blessing, but as a massive testament to the incredible advances in modern medical care, deliberately pivoting the focus away from his own royal self and onto the vital importance of early detection for the general public. This strategic pivot is genuinely brilliant from a public relations standpoint, but it is also deeply and profoundly human. In my own personal opinion, seeing a powerful monarch use their immensely privileged platform to destigmatize a terrifying health struggle that affects millions of everyday families is incredibly refreshing and deeply inspiring. For an ancient institution historically known for its incredibly stiff upper lip and aggressive culture of secrecy, this new level of vulnerability is essentially a cultural earthquake that is reshaping their legacy in real time. But how did the general public and the notoriously harsh British media actually react to this sudden burst of emotional honesty? Hold on to your seats, because the response was overwhelmingly immense, prompting yet another incredibly rare move from Buckingham Palace. Immediately following the December 2025 video broadcast, the palace issued a formal official statement directly addressing the massive global reaction, which is something they almost never do in their normal daily operations. A designated palace spokesperson noted that the king was deeply touched by the worldwide outpouring of incredibly positive support, warmth, and genuine sympathy. The palace explicitly reaffirmed that his bold decision to speak so openly was fundamentally intended to help raise vital awareness for medical screening and proactive care, far beyond his own highly publicized personal situation. It is honestly a little bit heartwarming, even if you are not a dedicated royalist, to see an incredibly traditional institution step so far out of its rigid comfort zone and fully embrace a much more modern, highly empathetic approach to public relations. It is alleged that behind the closed palace doors, this modern strategy was heavily debated by senior staff, but the resulting massive wave of public goodwill easily speaks for itself. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer even publicly chimed into the conversation, openly welcoming the positive update and echoing the sheer, palpable relief felt across the entire UK that the King's rigorous treatment could finally be scaled back safely. Respected health experts and veteran royal commentators alike loudly praised the unprecedented move, noting how incredibly powerful it is for an older, highly visible global figure to speak so candidly about an issue that is so often surrounded by immense fear, stigma, and complete silence. But of course, because we live in the relentless era of viral internet culture, the actual truth is constantly battling against a relentless tide of wild, completely unverified speculation. Despite these incredibly clear, officially verified, and very cautious updates from highly credible sources, the internet somehow continues to churn out incredibly dramatic and completely baseless rumors. If you spend even 5 short minutes mindlessly scrolling through certain social media platforms, you will inevitably see completely baseless claims about a hidden terminal timeline, an imminent secret abdication, or massive internal palace crises, allegedly tearing the royal family completely apart from the inside out. But let me be perfectly clear with you right now. According to thoroughly verified reporting and highly reputable news organizations, these extreme and terrifying narratives are completely unsupported by any actual facts. Let us carefully break down exactly what the thoroughly verified facts actually are, so you are not easily misled by sensationalized, attention-seeking internet chatter designed merely for clicks. Fact number one that you absolutely need to remember. The king has a very real medical condition and has been continuously receiving ongoing treatment since early 2024. Fact number two. His physical response to the demanding medical regimen has been officially described by his doctors as positive enough to safely warrant a significantly reduced schedule going into the next year. Fact number three, and this is absolutely crucial to understand. The palace has explicitly and repeatedly clarified that the illness is absolutely not indicated as being in full remission, meaning the medical situation is still very real, highly serious, and requires continuous, careful monitoring by top medical professionals. There is absolutely no official declaration of a sudden, catastrophic royal crisis, and all official statements have consistently and clearly stressed overall continuity, institutional stability, and a very steady hand remaining firmly at the wheel of the monarchy. Completely unverified internet posts and wild speculative commentary should always be treated with extreme caution, as they almost always completely lack credible sourcing, any official confirmation, or even basic factual verification. It is honestly so incredibly easy to accidentally fall into the dangerous trap of believing a highly dramatic narrative simply because it feels so much more exciting than the slow, steady, and quiet reality of a properly managed medical recovery. Honestly, the real, fascinating story here is not some scandalous, completely fabricated palace collapse. It is the genuinely fascinating evolution of a monarch who is actively navigating a very fragile human challenge on the world's absolute biggest stage, while simultaneously trying his best to modernize a thousand-year-old, stubbornly traditional institution. That is the kind of authentic real-life drama that absolutely does not need any artificial inflation from anonymous internet trolls seeking cheap attention. So, what is the ultimate, incredibly important takeaway from all of this unprecedented and fascinating royal transparency? It is simply that King Charles III is actively managing a highly serious situation with a surprising level of openness that is actively and permanently changing how the global public views the entire monarchy. The palace's incredibly careful, methodical step-by-step updates have successfully maintained vital public trust, while mostly keeping the more ridiculous and harmful rumors somewhat at bay. It is an incredibly delicate and fascinating dance between fiercely maintaining the magical mystique of the ancient crown and offering the genuine, heartfelt human connection that modern, highly connected audiences absolutely demand. I genuinely think that by stepping directly in front of that camera in December 2025 and bravely sharing his stark reality without falsely sugarcoating it with overly optimistic words like cured, he showed a remarkable level of grounded, mature leadership that many people frankly did not expect from him. It takes a very specific, quiet kind of bravery to look directly into a camera lens and openly admit you are merely in a precautionary phase, openly acknowledging deep physical vulnerability while still actively projecting necessary institutional strength. And let us be completely real for a second. Dealing with exhausting side effects, stressful hospital visits, and constantly shifting daily schedules is deeply draining for absolutely anyone, let alone someone who is relentlessly expected to continuously perform highly public ceremonial duties with a perfectly straight posture and a polite, unwavering smile. The fact that the public and government reactions have been so measured, mature, and deeply supportive firmly proves that everyday people do not actually want an untouchable, robotic figurehead. They want a genuine human being who truly understands what ordinary families go through when faced with terrifying and uncertain medical news. As we finally move into 2026, the officially reduced treatment schedule is undoubtedly a highly positive and deeply welcome sign, but the entire situation remains a very closely watched and highly sensitive global narrative. We will undoubtedly see more careful schedule adjustments, more highly calculated statements released from the palace, and yes, unfortunately, significantly more wild, baseless rumors constantly generated from people who simply have entirely too much free time on their hands. But as long as you make sure to always stick to the thoroughly verified facts, the actual ongoing story of King Charles right now is one of quiet resilience, highly strategic modern transparency, and a surprisingly heartfelt, genuine effort to use intense personal adversity for a much greater public good. It is a truly brilliant and profound reminder that strictly behind the heavy velvet ropes, the shining golden carriages, and the centuries of stoic, unchanging tradition, these are just actual, fragile real people dealing with the exact same unpredictable human realities as the rest of us. So the absolute next time you happen to see a wildly sensationalized headline falsely claiming the sky is rapidly falling over Buckingham Palace, take a deep breath, clearly remember the actual timeline of verified events we just thoroughly walked through together, and instantly recognize that the truth is usually a lot more steady and a lot more inspiring than the frantic fiction. Keep your eyes completely peeled for exactly how the palace strategically handles the very next phase of this deeply personal journey. Because if this unprecedented year has taught us absolutely anything at all, it is that the rigid royal rulebook is officially being completely rewritten in real time. The monarchy is evolving right in front of us, and while the tabloids will always try to sell you a fabricated disaster, the verified facts show a family trying to balance their heavy historic duties with the undeniably fragile nature of human health. The upcoming months will be highly telling, but one thing is certain. The era of absolute royal silence is over, and this newfound transparency might just be the very thing that saves their public image in the long run. And we are all just incredibly lucky to be watching modern history unfold before our very eyes in a spectacular way we have truly never witnessed before.